official welcome. We're giving the official welcome to the 2022 Empower Ed Teacher Voice Festival. And so while we're giving it up for the go-go, let's give it up for educators all over the city. Come on, y'all. So Teacher Voice, right? This is something that we do annually. Empower Ed hosts this festival every single year. And what a beautiful day we have on this October the 15th. This is totally awesome. So we are celebrating teachers, we're celebrating Teacher Voice, and we are celebrating you for being out here with us today. Teachers and our voice is critical to the conversation when it comes to determining what's going to happen inside the elementary schools and middle schools and high schools in DC. Y'all agree with that? Yeah, right. So that's why Teacher Voice festivals like this are critical. So what we want you all to do is continue visiting with our tables, right? You're going to hear a conversation from reinstating the education committee at the council, to solid research on education matters, to holistic education, strengthening the education community voice. And right here now today, we are part of that huge community. We're also at the tables talking about how we can replace the park and replace SROs in the present state, and what teachers want to do to prioritize critical matters that mean something to our children in our schools in DC. We've also got some great community partners here with us today. WTU, Honor Teachers, Parents Amplifying Voices, the CapX Lab, the Literacy Lab, Experiential Food, Black Lives Matter, Hello, and Black Swan Academy. Let's give it up also for our community leaders. So if I didn't say it before, I am Gabrielle. I am a proud member of Empower Ed. I'm also a teacher. I teach at Duke Ellington, which is my alma mater. I graduated from Duke Ellington back in 1970. None of your business. But I'm excited to be at Ellington and here as well. And this time I'll bring up our illustrious Executive Director, Scott Goldstein. Give it up for Scott.
How y'all doing? Thank you all so much for coming out to the Teacher Voice Festival. We could not have gotten a more perfect day for this. Thank y'all for being here. Thank you for supporting our teachers, for supporting Teacher Voice. I just want to start with a few words about the moment we're in for teachers in the city right now, and we're going to hear from some of our teachers in the classroom. So, as you know, teaching is tough. It's always been a tough job, but we just went through an incredibly tough period for our teachers, for our students, for our schools, for our families over the past few years. And we learned a lot from what we went through during the pandemic. But let me say this, before we had a pandemic, DC had the highest teacher turnover rate in the country, with almost 25% of our teachers leaving our schools every year. That was 3 years ago when the WTU had a contract. We still had the highest teacher turnover rate in the country. Right now, we've been 3 years without a teacher contract. We've gone through one of the most difficult periods for teachers and for our students and our families in recent memory. And so we're facing a crisis with our teachers in our schools to make sure we keep them and retain them. And I want to say this, when we started Empower Ed 5 years ago, I was a classroom teacher for 10 years before I started Empower Ed. When we started this movement, it was about showing up in places at the State Board of Education, at the DC Council, and wondering, where are the teachers? But not just where are the teachers who look like the students and who look like Washington, DC. So we would show up and we'd see 1 or 2 or 3 teachers showing up at a State Board meeting, at a DC Council hearing. A lot of them look like me. And I said, that's not right. We're going to do more to center the voices of educators who represent our city, who represent our students and our families. And so we're going to make sure when our elected leaders hear from our teachers about what they need in the classroom, they're hearing from the majority of teachers who are Black in the city. They're hearing from the growing percentage of teachers and students and families who are Latina in the city. And they're going to hear from a diverse group of voices. So when we started Empower Ed, that's what it was about. It was about making sure that every teacher, a diverse representative group of teachers, was at the table when policy decisions were being made that affected them, that affected their students. Because we believe that when teachers lead, their students succeed. And we believe that when teachers are at the forefront, they're thinking about their family's best interest. They're thinking about the students. They're not thinking about their students vaguely. They're thinking about their specific students. They're thinking about the student who they were just with the other day and who they had a parent-teacher conference with, and their parents have needs beyond academics so they can come in and learn. So they're thinking about the things that policymakers need to have on their minds. So there's no better way for them to make policy than for them to listen to the people connected to parents and families, connected to students, connected to all of our providers in the building, who know firsthand what we need to improve our schools. So we believe if we put those voices at the table, we're gonna have better outcomes for everybody. And so in the last few years, it's been tested. Our turnover rate has gone up. We know every other job and career has gotten more flexible while teaching has not. And if that continues, we're going to continue to see teachers departing the classroom. So we have teachers here with ideas. Our hashtag, our motto is Teacher Solutions, because we believe teachers bring the solutions to the table to improve education. So you're going to hear from a few of those amazing teachers right now. And I'm going to start with the amazing Brittany Richardson, charter school teacher, charter school parent, about recruiting and retaining our educators of color.
Good morning, everybody. Oh, get up. Good, whatever time it is. Hello, hello. Can y'all hear me?
Hold it closer.
Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay, cool. There we go.
Cut it out.
Hello, my name is Brittany Richardson. As I was just introduced, I serve as our family and community voice organizer. So I'm all about making sure our DC parents are heard in our schools. It's very important to me, okay? Because not only am I a DC teacher, I am a DC parent, and I'm a DC native. So if you're a DC native, let me make some noise. Yes, I know that's right. All right, so this past May, I graduated with my master's in leadership and policy from American University. Thank you. During my program, one of my professors asked us the question. He asked us, who's excluded from our local teacher workforce? He named that we lived in a false binary of black and white. That we look at our country as black people and white people. And in that moment, I recognized that in my 3 years as a teacher, I have never served alongside a Hispanic lead teacher, ever. That is in KIPP, Friendship, Center City Public Charter School, in my schools, let me say that. Now, I had to look up some data because I'm like, this is crazy, right? Then I found out that only 7% of DC teachers are Hispanic, where 21% of our students are. I've done so much research around recruiting and retaining black teachers, around serving our black children, and I realized that I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge that all of my students were not black. Some of my students are Hispanic. I am not the representation that they need, unfortunately. They need to see teachers that look like them, that speak like them, that come from their diverse backgrounds. Washington, D.C. is a cultural melting pot. It is a linguistic melting pot. It is a racial melting pot, and our schools need to reflect that. Black teachers are important. Black teachers are necessary, but so are Hispanic teachers. So, when it comes to policy, Empower Ed has done amazing work with our Rep DC campaign, bringing in DC natives into our schools. But I want to ask us, what can we do to bring in more Hispanic educators within our networks? I've done some research, and according to the Center of American Progress, Hispanic educators are more likely to attend 2-year universities than 4-year universities. We partner with 4-year universities. How can we partner with alternative certification programs to bring in more Hispanic educators? What can we do to recruit Hispanic educators straight out of high school? According to OSCE, there's about 17,000 Hispanic students in DC public schools. That's 17,000 potential Hispanic educators that we can prepare for the workforce. So I want to ask us, as DC natives, as DC residents, as DC policymakers, what are we going to do to ensure that all of our children are reflected in our classrooms? Thank you. Woo!
Thank you, Brittany. All right, next we're going to bring up teacher Alice McNeil, who's going to talk to us about our democracy in education.
Okay. Can you hear me? Yeah? Give me thumbs up. You can hear me? Okay, awesome, possum. Okay, hi everyone. First, thank you for coming to the Teacher Voice Festival. It was wonderful getting to speak to some of you, and for those I haven't met, I'm Alice McNeil, reading specialist at Garfield Elementary School in Ward 8. I'm here along with Dominique Moore, along with Dominique Moore as the co-chair of the Democracy Team for Empower Ed. The Democracy Team has several goals this year, and there is a theme that underlines them all: listen to teachers. Education is a unique profession. It's a profession in which the experts, teachers, actual educators are able to make very few, if any, decisions that direct how schools are run. In our own city, the schools are controlled by the mayor, who, please correct me if I'm wrong, has no experience working in a school. In what other profession is someone who has no experience in charge, making decisions that will impact our students for the rest of their lives? I've been to the movie theater, but I would never be hired to run the AMC Entertainment Company. I've been to the doctor, but I know I'm unqualified to lead a network of hospitals because I'm not formally trained. I don't have the experience. Why do these same rules and logic no longer apply when we discuss education? We work in the nation's capital. Our schools should be exemplary. They should lead the nation. We all know that is not the case. Instead, DC schools have the highest rate of teacher turnover in the nation. That is how we lead. These staggering rates of turnover plagued our city schools well before the COVID-19 pandemic began, and even when the Washington Teachers Union was working under a valid contract, which, if you are unaware, expired in 2019. Yes, 3 years ago. Our schools are in a crisis. Teachers have left and continue to leave our schools in droves. These positions are not being replaced. We are in the third month of school, and there continue to be vacancies all over the city. The writing is on the wall. It is crystal clear that things are not working. But who's going to have the answer? Us, the teachers that go to work in our schools every single day. If you want to know what will keep teachers working in our city schools, you need to ask us, the actual teachers. Retaining teachers is more than compensation, which, yes, is very important. Teachers should be able to afford to live where we teach, but it's also so much more than that. It's about scheduling flexibility, over testing that takes away valuable instructional time, social emotional learning, and resources for ourselves as well as our students. And that means more than a webinar on self-care. To know what the actual issues are that drive teachers away and how to fix them, simply ask us. We are eager to solve these problems. Include us in the conversations and decisions that are made that directly impact teaching and learning in our nation's capital, not just during campaign season or the start of the school year, but all year long. First, we need a standalone committee on education in the council. A specific group of council members that are tasked with overseeing and held accountable to the many issues we currently face in education. The additional staff, resources, and council leadership that a standalone committee provides is incredibly important as our schools continue to grapple with the long-lasting effects of the pandemic, record teacher turnover, and unfilled staffing vacancies within our schools. These lasting effects cannot be handled as a sidebar. They require strategic focus and planning. Within this committee, we need teachers' voices not only included, but sought out and amplified. That means holding hearings when teachers are actually able to participate, not during the middle of our school day, but after 4 p.m. Reinstating the standalone committee in education is a necessary first step to tackle the short and long-term issues impacting our schools. And luckily, we have incoming council members with significant educational experience. This is an opportunity to let them take the lead. As an educator, I'm expected to end each lesson the way I started, by reiterating the objective, the learning target, the main takeaway, the point of the lesson. So what I'm repeating is what I hope I already made clear, that the only way to begin to solve the educational issues facing Washington, D.C. is to listen to teachers. Seek out our voices and opinions. We are the experts in our field, and we are on the ground in Washington, D.C. schools every day. We are problem solvers, and we know what will actually work to affect change in our schools. What is realistic and what is best for ourselves and students. Schools are a barometer of the health of the community. What is best for our students is best for the entire community, all of Washington, D.C. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Alice. Sobella, we're now going to hear from one more phenomenal educator, Sobella Quezada, who's going to talk to us a little bit about our early learners and all the wraparound supports that they need and deserve.
Hi everyone, my name is Sobella Quezada and I am a pre-K teacher at Marie Reed. Thank you so much to Scott and everyone else who has been a part of Empower Ed. I'm so happy to be here with all of you today. I just want to say shout outs real quick to the Opportunities team with Sophia and Luz. I've had such a pleasure working with them. So our focus this year was holistic education, and as an early childhood teacher, I can't emphasize enough the importance of providing the necessary supports for our early learners. Some of you, or maybe many of you, might be familiar with Frederick Douglass's quote that in order to, wait, hold on, I have it in my notes.
Take your time.
Thank you. Okay. It is easier to build strong children than it is to repair broken men. And that quote has helped to guide much of my teaching journey because it really comes down to creating a strong foundation, not only in our individual classrooms, but also at a systems level. And my hope is that through Empower Ed, I can continue the work in policy while still being in the classroom and creating the impact that is so important to me. I think every school should have access to multi-layered wraparound services, not just to our early learners, but also to, older students as well. We know that, another important reality is that it really does take a village to raise our children, and it's important that we have all the necessary assistance from various venues of help to really give our students the holistic and supportive educations that each and every one of them deserve, regardless of zip code, regardless of ward. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sobella. Round of applause for all of those educators. We're going to bring up two more educators now who are leading our work this year to center student voices in our teacher-led campaign. So even though we're a teacher organization, we believe education is all the stakeholders. It's our parents and families. It's our students first and foremost. So I'm going to bring up Rosalyn, Señorita Lake, and Brad, who are leading our work to bring student voices into these teacher campaigns this year, and let them talk a little bit about how we can center our students.
Buenos días.
Buenos días.
Can I hear buenos días?
Buenos días.
Okay, perfecto. So I'm Señorita Lake and this is Brad. We're going to share a little bit of what we're going to tackle this year.
Hi everybody. My name is Brad Thompson, teacher at Roosevelt High School. Homecoming week this week, we play Baloo. That's a definite W, no disrespect to Baloo. So we're centering our student voice campaign this year around 5 core tenements that we feel are important for our young people. Civic engagement, community engagement, college and career transition, climate justice, and a more deeper and more in-depth knowledge of the curriculum and what they are learning. And one of the ones that when we planned out our 5 C's, as we have named it, one of the things that struck me as we were planning this was the neighborhood that we were in. And when we hear about climate justice and the environment, you may think that that is something beyond the urban setting. But on the street where we were planning out this guidebook, this curriculum for our campaign, we noticed there were no grocery stores on that block. There was nowhere where a student after school could get fresh food or feel safe walking home from their school or even commuting to the train. So when we talk about climate justice and the environment, it goes beyond creating sustainability for our greater environment, but how can we improve our block How can we improve our corner? How can we improve the commute from the school building to the train? Is it safe? Is it affordable? Can students feel empowered getting to school, going home, and then sharing that with their families in a healthy and safe environment? And that's just a little bit of that tenement. And we have a whole bunch of others that we're planning out. And I know with your help and your continued support, the Student Voice team can do a lot of great work. Thank you.
If you guys want to be part of the campaign, we're going to make sure that our students' voice are heard in DC. Just because you're from Ward 6 or 7, it does not mean that climate justice doesn't affect you, right? So even the hood needs to get beautified. So that's what we're looking for. The name of our campaign is Color Esperanza. Can you guys say it with me? Color Esperanza. That means the color of hope. So our goal is to make sure that we strengthen the families and the youth voices inside of our schools, so that the kids are they feel like what they're learning and who they're learning it from is going to make an impact in their communities. Gracias. If you want to put your handprint on our canvas, you should. I see some people here that I haven't seen, so I hope you can put your handprint there. Gracias, amor y paz.
Thank you. All right, real quick, we are going to bring up now an amazing person that we are very blessed to be with today, who is currently leading a tour around the country to bring and distribute free banned books that have been banned by these terrible laws across the country, and this unbanned book tour. And many of you will know this name, Professor Kimberly Crenshaw, who is here today on this national tour and wanted to come to speak to the teachers and the educators about the amazing work that they are doing to bring light to this important work that they are doing throughout the country. So I'm going to invite to come on up Professor Kimberly Crenshaw.
Thank you, Scott. Hello, Empower Ed. Hello. It is such a blessing to be with you today. This is actually a very special day for me. Not only am I honored to be on the Arc of Justice Million Black Voters Tour, but today is my mother's birthday. And I'm going to tell you that my mother was a school teacher for 50 years in Canton, Ohio. She was a graduate of Howard University. And she was a fierce proponent of the understanding that education is the key to racial justice. Education is the key to a truly functional multiracial democracy. And she was a fierce and proud union member who knew that the way to make sure that we were able to deliver what we needed to deliver to our children was to protect the right of teachers to teach. I think she would be proud of our effort today to push back against the effort to attack teachers, the effort to attack education as a way to change the rules so that the outcomes of our democracy favor the few as opposed to the many. I think she would be the first to recognize that the attack on education is a page out of a very, very old book. She would be the first to remind us that it used to be a crime to teach black people how to read. She would be the first to remind us that education was one of the first things that the freedmen focused on when they got free. She would be the first to remind us that miseducation of our American history is why we have so many ongoing problems of racism and white supremacy and resentment. She would be the first to say that the history books have underemphasized the role of African Americans and other people of color in making this democracy what it needs to be, what it claims it is. She would be the first to look at January 6th and say this is the consequence of those people who have grievances, people who believe this country was better when they were the only ones who were running it, people who believe that this country was better when only their votes, their voices, and their history was being honored and promoted. The reason why we are here today is because there is a close connection between the attack on our democracy and the attack on education. We believe that there is no daylight between the needs of racial justice and the needs of multiracial democracy. What we say is this attack on racial justice, on critical race theory, on the 1619 Project, on implicit bias, all of these are efforts to make racial justice unspeakable. And when you make racial justice unspeakable, you make multiracial democracies unachievable. So what we have decided to do is to find those books that are being banned and censored out of our children's education and give away 6,000 copies of those books through 17 states and 24 cities. Now, I want to acknowledge that while the framework of this attack has been an attack on critical race theory, what they are really going after is our history. What they're going after is racial justice. What they're going after is the ability of our children to know the history out of which they came. What they're going after is the ability to imagine a world that is different from the one in which we currently live. If you want to know some of the books that are being banned, some of the ones that we're having, let me tell you some of them. Stamped from the beginning for kids. Why don't they want kids to know about the history of enslavement? Why don't they want kids to know about how anti-black racism is functioned? Why don't they want them to know it? Because it will create in them critical consciousness about the history and the community that we've inherited. So we think every kid should have access to this book, and we're going to see to it that they do. All American Boys, another book written by a local DC person. Why don't they want to know this? They don't want people to draw the connections between anti-racism, between LGBTQ rights, between all of the rights that we need. They don't want us to understand the intersections. And of course, I gotta say something about critical race theory. They don't want people to know about critical race theory. Why? Structural racism is something that is scary. They don't want people talking about it. They saw what happened after George Floyd, and millions of people all over the country came out demanding not only prosecution of Derek Chauvin, that's kind of beside the point. They were demanding structural reform. These are the kind of ideas that people don't want us to have, and these are the kind of ideas that we want to make sure people have access to. So, if you're interested in any of these books, or any of the other 15 books that we have, please step over to our table. We're giving one book to everybody who wants one, and more importantly, we're asking you to join our book club. Once this tour is over, we're forming book clubs for each of these books. Look, we need to create our own ways of making sure that our people, our children, get the education they need. We want to help teachers who are being chilled from talking about these things. Every way that we can build the coalition to push back against this effort to undermine our democracy. So please join the African American Policy Forum Freedom Writers to Freedom Readers book tour.
Thank you so much for being here. It's an honor to have them, and please stop by, get one of those books, spread those books around, make sure our students have access to the material that they need.
Read those books.
Real quick, we're gonna do an activity with y'all in 1 second here. I'm gonna call up our lead organizer, Gabrielle, our lead organizer, Yvette, our teacher facilitator, Gabrielle, and we're gonna make sure you get to know each other a little bit here. All of you have come out to support Teacher Voice.
Hello everyone, can you hear me? Can I get a thumbs up if you hear me? Yes. Wonderful. Well, it's kind of hard to follow up Dr. Crenshaw, but I'm going to try. Basically, we want to have a community building game, okay? So we're going to be asking y'all to get into some groups in a little bit here. I will be asking y'all some questions. Gabrielle will be facilitating the movements here, and basically these questions are going to be around schooling, around education, and your own experiences within education. So, let me get my questions up.
Okay, so while Yvette is getting her question up, I'm going to ask everybody to join in and play with us. Come on, teachers love games. So on your feet, please, and gather in small groups, whatever that means to you. 3 people, 4 people, 5, 6. Come on. Everybody on your feet. Yeah, let's see some movement. The power of teacher voice. We love it. We ask one time and everybody moves. So Yvette's going to come now with the question, then I'll be back.
Okay, for my groups, the first question is, who was your favorite teacher in school? You'll have a few minutes to talk about that.
So share candidly, who was your favorite teacher in elementary, middle school, or high school? 2 minutes, talk and share, please.
All right, the next question is, what would you change about your school experience?
Let's talk and share. What would you have changed about your classroom experience in either elementary, middle school, or high school? What would you change? Be real, be candid. Talk and share. So it's as a student, what would you have changed in your classroom experience as a student?
All right, for those of you that participated, thank you very much. Woo! I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to our director, Scott.
All right, thank y'all guys. We're gonna wrap up here in a second. President Pogue-Lyons, if I could have you up here for a second. So guys, we're gonna get back to our music in just a second. If I can ask everybody to come back over. One more really important thing for us to talk about, which is as we started out, it's been a tough few years for teachers, and teachers have not had a contract in 3 years. So I want to bring up our president of our WTU, Jacqueline Pogue-Lyons, to rally the troops a little bit here about the need for a new contract for WTU.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, teachers. Good afternoon, parents and community. I want to thank Scott and his Empower Ed for inviting us here today. And what I want to do is ask everyone to come over to our booth. We have books for children. And what we also want to do is explain to you why we need your support in order to get our DC public school teachers a contract. They've been without a contract for 3 years, and we know that gas prices have continued to go up, housing prices have continued to go up, but teachers' salaries have not gone up. And I want to take this opportunity to thank our teachers because they've been through a lot over the last 3 years. They did a lot teaching, coming up to par and coming up with the technology and the necessary tools to teach our children virtually. And when it was time to go back to school in person last year, they went back. And they went back because they knew that the best way to teach children was in person. When it was time for them to get vaccinated, they didn't put up a fight. 98.9% of our teachers are vaccinated because they knew when they went back to school that our children, many of them didn't have the benefit of vaccinations, and they knew the best way to keep our children safe was for them to be vaccinated. And they came back to schools without supply cards. They came back to schools without the health and safety that they needed to make their children and themselves safe. And so right now, we are at a point where we are losing teachers, a quarter to a third of them every year. There are only 5,000 teachers in the District of Columbia, and when you're losing a quarter to a third every year, that means within 2 years you've lost 1,500 teachers. And then within 2 years, you've lost 3,000 teachers. We cannot have a stable city. We cannot have a great future in our city, especially for our underserved communities, if we don't fight for our teachers. Our teachers in the district, beyond what has been said, we're not asking to get rich, but we do want to have a compensation package that allows us to take care of our children and possibly live in the same place where we teach. What we're also asking for is more time to plan for children who have been through an unprecedented time. We're also asking for good, safe, working conditions, which make for great learning conditions and great outcomes for our students. So I'm not going to keep talking. It's a beautiful day, but in order to get this contract through, we're going to need the support and the love of our community. So please come over to our table. Thank you so much for what you do every day to support us, and thank you, Scott, and Empower Ed.
Thank you.
All right, so I want to thank you for coming, for centering our teacher voices today, for listening to our educators. We're going to be here for another hour, and I'm about to turn it over to Rashonda Hooks, teacher at Turner Elementary School and beautiful singer, who's going to sing to us for the next hour while you get to continue to explore. So a few quick announcements. We have our partners around the plaza. We have our 5 teams: democracy, opportunity, growth, representation, and equity. All of our teacher-led teams that are doing amazing work to advocate for better schools and a better education system. Stop by, talk to them, see how you can get involved. And I want to let you know, on October 25th, DC Council is holding a hearing on teacher and principal retention. We need you to sign up to talk about why it's important to keep our teachers, why it's important to keep our principals. Sign up for the hearing, get involved in all that you can get involved in today. I'm going to turn it over to Rashonda. Hope you stay around, enjoy, connect with our educators, and continue to support this work. Thank y'all.